Hey everybody, a short video here for you today. Now a lot of my recent videos have been around the area around Saqqara in Egypt, and there's one other site I'd like to talk about near Saqqara before I move on to other areas and other things here. But here we are zoomed in on Saqqara. It is located just south of Cairo and the Great Pyramids, and this is a pretty important location in ancient Egypt. And this is the step pyramid of Djoser, and Egyptologists say this is the first pyramid constructed, which I disagree with, but a lot of importance is placed on the architect of Djoser, and he is a pharaoh of the 3rd dynasty, and his architect was named Imhotep, and he was given godlike status in ancient Egypt for, I guess, building the first pyramid. But I think what he was revered for in actuality was he built the first pyramid that actually stood the test of time and lasted. We have other pyramids out here like this one that have just crumbled, and I believe Imhotep was revered as a god because he built pyramids like the Great Pyramids that were already standing that stood the test of time. But some work was done just north of this pyramid out here, and this is an incredible find, and this was done in the late 1900s, and it just kind of proves you never know what is under the sands of the Egyptian desert. And I am just going to jump over to a website here. And I found this good website, and I will leave the link below. It says, the search at North Saqqara for the great architect Imhotep led instead to the discovery of a massive animal necropolis containing millions of mummies, as Paul T. Nicholson explains. Beneath the sands of North Saqqara is a wide network of catacombs crammed with the remains of millions of mummified animals. Our subterranean investigations are shedding much new light on the remarkable yet sometimes shady cultive activities of the Egyptians of the first millennia BC. However, our project finds its origins with the search for a much earlier tomb, that of Imhotep, the great architect of King Djoser's step pyramid, around 2650 BC, Egypt's oldest pyramid, and that is debatable. Imhotep was consequently regarded as a person of such wisdom that he was deified in later times, while the Greeks identified him with their god of medicine, Asclepius. The idea of finding Imhotep was hatched by Egyptologist W.B. Emery while working in Saqqara in the late 1930s. Emery had noticed an area covered in pottery, including the remains of large tapering jars that would have contained the mummies of the sacred Ibis bird. The latter was regarded as the living image, or Ba, of the lunar deity Thoth, also the god of writing, learning, and wisdom. All these qualities were shared with Imhotep, and both cults were closely related. But this surface thought of pottery dated from the late period and after. Emery reasons it could have been left by later pilgrims to Imhotep's tomb, and thus his tomb should lie nearby. It says Emery's search would begin in earnest between 1964 and 1971. Almost immediately, Emery's team began unearthing hundreds of late period pots containing mummified ibises. They came from the shafts of a much earlier mastaba tombs, the kind of 3rd dynasty tomb in which Imhotep would have been buried. However, it gradually became clear that the shafts had been reused to specifically hold these ibis bird burials. Not only that, but the burial chambers themselves had been altered so that they became part of a series of long and interconnected tunnels. Emery had found a catacomb of the sacred Ibis that had been built among and from earlier tombs from the late period. Its builders had even re-sanctified the area by placing cow burials in some of the shafts and between the mastaba tombs themselves. There had clearly been a major remodeling of the earlier landscape during the late period, and although the motive for this development was unknown, Emery believed it may have something to do with Imhotep's tomb. And it says, continuing on, his team moved slightly to the northeast where they came upon the temple terrace. Work here led to the discovery of an impressive limestone doorway. On entering, the excavators found a series of small niches. Each originally contained a wooden shrine housing the mummified remains of a sacred baboon encased in a block of plaster. These animals, like the ibises, were regarded as the manifestation of Thoth, the god associated with Imhotep. But the baboons were much rarer, typically imported all the way from tropical Africa, and they lived a good life at the Temple of Ptah in the capital city of Memphis. And I guess you'd have to ask the baboons if they lived a good life in captivity in Memphis. But anyway, it says, in December 1968, a break was noticed leading from the baboon catacomb to another monument, and exactly 1 year later, the team entered to find themselves in a tunnel, which they had first took to be another Ibis catacomb. Subsequent investigations of the contents of the vessels, however, revealed that this was in fact a labyrinth of sacred falcons or hawks, which are associated with the god Horus. It says the following season led to the discovery of the burial place of the mothers of Apis, the sacred cows whose offspring, the Apis bulls, occupied the Serapeum, the great vaults at Saqqara. And I have made a video on the Serapeum, and I'll leave that link below. It says, as at the Serapeum, the burials were made in arch vaults, each lined with finely cut limestone blocks, most of them now robbed away, and each containing a huge stone sarcophagus in which would have rested the mummy of the cow. And it says the Tomb of the Birds. In 1970-71, that season saw the team focusing some of their attention on the east-west ridge at the very north end of the Saqqara escarpment. Like other parts of North Saqqara, this had been the site of mastaba tombs, and a number of tomb shafts were cleared. One of these led excavators into yet another catacomb, and this too proved to be a burial for ibises, probably the site of the Tomb of the Birds, as recorded by Napoleon on his visit to the Saqqara area at the end of the 18th century. It says eventually the team located its original entrance, covered by a mud brick vault and leading down from a courtyard with a garden. However, during the discovery of this new and extensive monument, Emery collapsed on site, and 2 days later he died in Cairo. And it says the site was left until Professor Smith, who succeeded Emery at University College in London in 1970, returned to work on the animal necropolis. And it says, but why so many mummified animals? It says sacred animals were an important focus of popular worship in the late period because they were believed to give oracles and to those who paid homage to them. Thus it was the pilgrims who paid for the mummification and burial of the ibises and falcons. This was big business since we estimate the combined total for these birds to be in excess of 2.25 million and perhaps as many as 4 million birds buried in this animal necropolis. I just think this is very fascinating. And this is what those catacombs look like. And this is where these millions of ibis mummies were placed. And this is what one of the ibis mummies looks like. And the ibis is now extinct in Egypt. Kind of wonder why. But going back to Google Earth here, this is just proves what you don't know is the many mysteries that are underneath the sands of Egypt. This is just north of Saqqara where this was found, just south of the Great Pyramids. Hope you thought this was interesting. Have a nice day.